the six of you has slept with who of the six of you?
Sounds like a dirty math problem.
There is one show that I've always wanted to make a video on, and that's Friends. Friends is a really special show to me because I remember discovering it for the first time on Nick at Night when I was younger and immediately falling in love with the show. And to date, I've rewatched the series more times than I can count. One thing that has always stuck out to me about the show was the dynamics in the friend group and how the characters interact with each other and at times enter into borderline incestuous relationships with each other. You know, this is a pretty common trope we see in sitcoms all the time. One of the easiest ways to sow in conflict in your series is to just pair two of the cast members in a relationship and boom, you have at least a couple episodes of plot baked in. It's a pretty common sitcom practice we're used to seeing, but the interesting thing about Friends is that we have an equal amount of men and women in the cast. You know, normally sitcoms are geared to a certain demographic, men, women, teens, or kids, and so you'll normally see more characters in the main cast that specifically appeal to that demographic. But with Friends, there wasn't more men than women or more women than men. We had 6 main characters, 3 guys and 3 girls. So really, the show had hit the jackpot because they could just pair these characters endlessly with each other, and the series was really ripe for those kinds of plot lines. Everyone could potentially sleep with or be in a relationship with someone in the main cast. Now, of course, Ross and Monica are siblings, so you'd think that would disqualify that pairing, but boy would you be wrong, because in watching the show, you'll realize that not even blood relations would stop the writers from pairing characters together. In fact, not even sexuality would stop the writers from shipping 2 characters. In the Friends cast, they can all have sex with each other at any given time, which at the time was so interesting to me because it was the first time I'd ever seen something like that in a show. So now we're going to talk about it. But before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video, and also you can follow me on Twitter to connect. Now, in case you're one of the few people who have never seen this show, let me break it down for you. Friends was an extremely popular sitcom that ran for 10 years from 1994 to 2004. It stars a cast of 6 friends, Ross, Rachel, Phoebe, Chandler, Monica, and Joey as they navigate friendship and relationships in New York City as young adults. Now, like I said before, the casting of 6 main characters, 3 men and 3 women, really opened up the writers to an endless combination of romantic flings and conflicts. Now, I think it's important to acknowledge that not every ship or pairing I talk about here was really ever intended to be a serious relationship within the show. Actually, a lot of the sexual contact the friends have with each other were either played for laughs or quickly abandoned or only briefly seen in one episode. This is especially true for the same-sex pairings, because even though they have winked at the guys being together or the girls being together, they never really took any of them seriously, and the entire cast throughout the series were all depicted as being straight. So if I mention a kiss or implied romance, that isn't me saying that the writers were actually trying to pair these characters together or have them in a serious romantic relationship. I'm really just pointing out the fact that basically the 6 friends all at some point were opened up to being shipped or paired with everyone else in the cast. They hang out all the time, they spend most of their time together, and the possibility of these characters hooking up with each other is never fully off the table. So let's go through these pairings and needlessly analyze the incestuous relationships in Friends. So Rachel is the perfect place to start because she is, for the audience, the introduction into the group of friends. But also, Rachel's character throughout the show was oftentimes referred to as being a little slutty, and that's not to say that she's had the most sexual relationships in the show, because she hasn't. Joey, Ross, and Phoebe have all had more sexual partners than Rachel throughout the 10 seasons. But the show oftentimes straight up calls Rachel a slut and hints at her having a very promiscuous past.
You kissed her that night too?
2 guys in one night? Oh, I thought she became a slut after she got her nose fixed.
So I think she's the best place to start off from. Rachel and Ross.
Now all of a sudden he's Ross. Oh, this really great guy that I can't have.
Now, obviously, we have to start off with Rachel and Ross. Their relationship, though tumultuous, is the focal point of the entire series. Even in the seasons where they aren't together, they still always find a way to hint at the possibility of these 2 crazy kids finally putting everything aside and getting together. Probably the ultimate will they won't they ever committed to screen. So in season 1, Ross first had a crush on Rachel, something he wanted to pursue after he got a divorce.
But do you think it would be okay if I asked you out sometime, maybe?
Ross has had a crush on Rachel ever since she was in high school, but he never actually did anything about it. Anyways, They have a whole whirlwind romance. We're constantly wondering, will they, won't they? In season 1, Ross is in love with Rachel, but she doesn't know. In season 2, Rachel is in love with Ross, but he doesn't know. They have an argument, he apologizes, they finally get together, things look like it's going great, but oh no, Ross gets crazy jealous of Rachel's co-worker and thinks that she might be cheating. They get into a huge argument. Rachel says they should go on a break. Ross goes to a bar and has sex with someone else less than 6 hours later, and Rachel eventually finds out and they officially break up. There was a period of time there where they hated each other because Ross didn't think he did anything wrong because they were on a break, but Rachel thinks he cheated. And this was actually like a big debate back in the day. The show kind of presents the argument that you could logically pick a side between these two, that you could be either Team Rachel or Team Ross. But was anybody actually Team Ross? Because his argument never made any sense to me. Rachel said that maybe they should take a break, and a couple of hours later he's having sex with someone else. That's kind of crazy. I was always Team Rachel. I don't know how anyone could be Team Ross. He didn't even stay to talk it through with her. He just stormed out. So yeah. No. Anyways, they eventually are able to be around each other. There was a brief moment where they almost got back together, but Rachel wanted him to take complete responsibility for their relationship ending, and he just couldn't bring himself to do it.
We were on a break!
Then after that, they were friends for a really long time. They dated other people. Ross eventually got remarried to a British woman, Emily. That eventually bothered Rachel though, because she started to have feelings for Ross again. And then at the wedding, Ross said Rachel's name instead of Emily. That eventually destroyed his marriage before it was even started. And Emily didn't want Rachel and Ross around each other. And Ross didn't want to give up his friendship with Rachel. So Ross is getting another divorce. Rachel did confide to Ross that she was starting to have feelings for him again, but they both agreed that now would not be the best time for them to get back together as he's just going through a divorce. They also got drunk one night in Vegas and got married, so they also had to get a divorce, which was just crazy because they weren't even together at that point. Then they randomly had sex with each other.
Ross, did I ever tell you about the time that I went backpacking through Western Europe?
Leading to Rachel getting pregnant.
I'm pregnant.
And giving birth to their daughter, Emma.
2, 3!
You know, I always found it weird that they would name their daughter Emma because it sounded so similar to Emily, but whatever. At this point, they're still not together, they're simply co-parenting. Then in the final episode, out of nowhere, they have sex again, confess their feelings for each other, and Rachel turns down her dream job opportunity working in Paris to be with Ross. So yay. Happy ending. So yeah, you can tell that Rachel and Ross has had a very tumultuous relationship, to say the least. And to be honest, as the series went on, I stopped rooting for them to be together. At first I was on board, but their whole relationship is nothing but strife. Nothing ever comes easy to these two. There's always something in the way. I just don't think that if two people like each other, the relationship should have to be that difficult. But there was always something, and it just became too frustrating to sit through. So officially, Rachel has dated, married, divorced, and had a child with Ross. Now let's move on to Rachel and Phoebe. Rachel and Phoebe.
I got a question. If you had to pick one of us to date, who would it be?
I don't know.
Me neither. Rachel.
So Rachel and Phoebe are a bit of an odd pairing. They've known each other for the least amount of time out of the group, and they don't hang out one-on-one a lot. Eventually though, in the later seasons, Rachel and Phoebe move in together, share an apartment, and Rachel was even the maid of honor at Phoebe's wedding. So they are good friends. They get along well, so well that they even kissed at one point. In one episode, Rachel reunites with one of her college friends and shares a story about how they kissed one night when they were really drunk. Phoebe doesn't believe Rachel, however, as she thinks she's too British to have ever done something as outrageous as kiss a girl.
Kissed a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure that happened.
So Rachel, determined to prove her wrong, invites her friend out to dinner with Phoebe, but the friend doesn't seem to remember that ever happening. Rachel spends the whole night trying to prove that it did in fact happen, culminating in her kissing her friend again, refusing to be labeled as a prude, and having the most outrageous thing she's ever done taken away from her. It's revealed, however, that her friend is a closeted lesbian and did in fact remember that night, and has secretly been in love with Rachel since, but was pretending not to save face. Rachel rejects her and she leaves unhappy. Phoebe then kisses Rachel, saying that she wanted to see what all the hype was about.
And?
I've had better.
So, like I said before, the show oftentimes treats these same-sex interactions as jokes. We're not supposed to take this as a serious indication of romantic feelings. The entire cast is straight. So Phoebe kissing Rachel here isn't Phoebe and Rachel exploring any romantic feelings with each other. But it did happen. Rachel and Chandler.
Last night, I had a dream that you and I were
doing it on this table.
Wow, excellent dream score.
Next, we have Rachel and Chandler. So, Rachel and Chandler have had a very interesting relationship. They don't spend a lot of one-on-one time together, although there was that one time where they stole cheesecake to eat together. They have known each other since college through Ross. There was that one time that Chandler barges into Rachel and Monica's apartment while Rachel was getting out of the shower, and he saw Rachel naked. Rachel becomes frustrated and makes it her mission for the rest of the episode to see Chandler naked, a tit for tat. Rachel tries to barge in on Chandler in the bathroom, but only ever catches Joey. Things get a little bit more heated in another episode where the potential sexual relationships between the friends are all explored. Janice asks the group of friends which friend have almost had sex with another friend, and in this episode we find out that Rachel, soon to get married to Barry, wants to have one more fling before getting married. Chandler overhears this and tries to make a move on Rachel, but fails.
Excuse me, I seem to have dropped my ball.
Yeah, so?
Later that night, Rachel fantasizes about going back to the bar and hooking up with Chandler. It was all in her head, but it at least shows that they at one point had a mutual attraction to one another. In another episode, Monica and Chandler are trying to keep their relationship a secret, and when they are seen kissing each other, to play it off, Chandler kisses everyone else in the room at one point, including Rachel. But that's the extent of their sexual and romantic contact. They kissed at one point, were kind of sexually interested in each other at another point, way back when, but since being friends, there was no real sexual or romantic interest in each other. Rachel and Monica.
We only did it once. It didn't mean anything to me. Yeah, right? Really, sure. Rachel, I was thinking of you the whole time.
Now, Rachel and Monica have known each other since they were kids. They've been best friends since high school, but lost touch after college. Since they reunited, they've been roommates for a very long time and re-established their friendship. They're best friends and care very deeply about each other. Now, they've never shown any sexual or romantic interest in each other, but they have kissed before. In one episode, the girls lost their apartment in a bed to the boys, but one day while the guys were away, they switched the apartments back. The guys are very upset and won't let it go and demand they give them their apartment back. To appease them, they agree to make out with each other in front of them for a minute. The guys agree, and when they do, allow them to keep their apartment.
Totally worth it. That was one good minute. Good night. Good night.
Now, we never saw the kiss. It was off screen, but apparently it was so great it was worth giving up the bigger apartment. Rachel and Joey.
What's up, Joey?
How you doing?
Lastly, we have Rachel and Joey. Now, this was a very controversial ship. Rachel and Joey have been very good friends for a while. She was even roommates with Joey at one point, and it was never a secret that Joey was sexually attracted to Rachel. Hell, in the pilot episode, he hit on her the second he met her.
You need anything, you can always come to Joey. Me and Chandler live right across the hall, and he's away a lot.
There was also an episode where Joey, longing to have a relationship similar to Chandler and Monica, hits on Rachel to establish that kind of close relationship. He didn't really have strong feelings for her at that point. She was just the first female friend he saw after coming to the conclusion that being friends with a woman first may allow him to have a stronger, more meaningful connection. In fact, after Rachel turned him down, he laments that he should have asked Phoebe first. However, Rachel and Joey do get an official chance at a relationship. After Rachel got pregnant with Ross, Joey started having feelings for her. When Rachel gave birth, she thought Joey was proposing to her and said yes. That was actually just a whole confusion. Joey did have things for Rachel at that point, but she didn't have any things for him, and only said yes because she was scared of raising the baby alone. And Rachel, out of nowhere, starts having things for Joey. Eventually, Rachel and Joey tried to date. It was really difficult for Ross, and he was having an extremely hard time coming to terms with it.
I'm fine!
But eventually, he gave them their blessing to start dating. But when they tried to be intimate with each other, they were having a difficult time, and they wondered how it was so easy for Monica and Chandler. And the conclusion they came to was because they think they were better friends than Chandler and Monica were. And no, the real reason why the Joey and Rachel ship came to a bitter end was because it was extremely unpopular among fans. People absolutely hated that the writers even attempted to put these two together, and so from the very inception, it was a ship that was not built to last. So as you can see, Rachel has had some sort of romantic or sexual contact with every other member of the cast. Now, like I said, most of these weren't to be taken seriously, especially the same-sex pairings. They were generally just played for laughs, but I do still think it's interesting suggesting that Rachel has been with everyone else in some way. Again, playing into that promiscuous slut title the show kind of gave her. Chandler. Now let's look at Chandler. Chandler to me is a pretty interesting character to have this conversation about, because while Chandler definitely gets play, he dates a lot just like the other members of the cast, but he's always made fun of for being notoriously bad with women and being single. Chandler does date a lot of women, and oftentimes is the one rejecting them, but the show constantly portrays Chandler as a loser who struggles to get the woman he wants, which may be why it would be easier to just pair him with a woman in the main cast. Chandler and Monica.
Alright, worst comes to worst, I'll be your boyfriend.
So the obvious one here to start with is Chandler and Monica. They get together and it was a pretty huge deal at the time. Chandler and Monica have a long history. Chandler was first introduced to Monica when he was Ross's college roommate and best friend, and he came over for Thanksgiving one year. Monica thought he was cute, but Chandler made comments about her weight, which she overheard. We find out that Chandler calling Monica fat was actually what inspired her to lose weight, which I hate so much, but you know, this is a product of its time. Years go by, they eventually become friends, and Monica actually struggles somewhat with the same thing Chandler does. She dates a lot too, but is constantly worried about ending up alone. They even in season 1 made a pact that they would get married if they were both still single by the time they reached 30. So there was always a little hint there. Eventually the show throws them into it and they start sleeping around when Ross is getting married to Emily in London. Interestingly enough, the writers again were just throwing two of their main cast members together and never really intended for the relationship to evolve from anything more than just a fling. But the show is tipped in front of a live studio audience, and the showrunners say that the revelation of Monica and Chandler got the biggest reaction from the audience that they've ever had, and so they realized that they might have something special here, and they had to take it seriously. So instead of a short fling, Chandler and Monica's relationship evolved into something more. They move in together, they get married, and eventually adopted kids. This was always my favorite relationship. I prefer it so much more over Ross and Rachel. It just feels a lot more easy and genuine. There was just so much more care and love in their relationship. With Ross and Rachel, there was always a lot of ego involved. But Chandler was just so accommodating to Monica's quirks, and Monica was so supportive of Chandler and pushing him to do things that he liked, even if that meant quitting his job. These two are the true love story of Friends. Chandler and Joey. Chandler and Joey are best friends. They've been roommates for a majority of the show's run, and a running gag in the series is how Chandler and Joey's friendship at times mirrors the relationship of a romantic couple. They have fights, get jealous, at times break up with each other, and there's a constant nod throughout the series that there was something more to their friendship. But like I said, the entire cast is straight, so any winks at Chandler and Joey being gay for each other is only ever played for laughs. But the writers really like making these jokes and putting their relationships in those situations. So even though Chandler and Joey are just friends, they've still kissed. In one episode, it's New Year's Eve and the whole gang is worried about bringing in the new year alone. And so as the ball is dropping, Chandler is desperate to have a New Year's kiss, and to give his best friend what he wants, Joey kisses Chandler. Again, it's not serious, it's only played for laughs, and that's pretty much the extent of any sexual or romantic overtone to Joey and Chandler's relationship. Just a bunch of homoerotic scenes and jokes. And a kiss. Chandler and Phoebe.
I'm very happy we're gonna have all the sex.
You should be. I'm very bendy.
Now next is Chandler and Phoebe. Chandler and Phoebe don't really have a lot of history together, and they don't go on their own adventures often, but there were still some moments throughout the show for them. So again, Chandler kissed Phoebe when he was trying to cover his relationship with Monica, but there was also a moment where they both pretended to like each other in order to get Chandler and Monica to admit they're dating. So in one episode, Rachel, Phoebe, and Joey now know about Monica and Chandler's secret relationship, so Phoebe and Rachel start messing with them to get them to do things for them in order to protect their relationship. Eventually it leads to Phoebe pretending to be into Chandler and Chandler pretending to reciprocate those feelings, both not letting up to see how far the other will go before revealing the truth. This led to a very awkward kiss between the two, but Chandler couldn't stick it out and cracked, revealing the truth about him and Monica. And that's pretty much it. They don't really do anything beyond that. Chandler and Rachel.
I just want you to take me and kiss me and make love to me right here, right now.
So again, Chandler and Rachel in that episode had a brief romantic interest with each other. He was into her, she was into him, nothing happened. So Chandler has had some romantic or sexual contact with Monica, Joey, Phoebe, and Rachel. Phoebe. Now Phoebe's kind of on the out with most of the friends, and it's commented on in the show.
It's a matter of time before someone had to leave the group. I just always assumed Phoebe would be the one to go.
She's the only one without a long history with anyone, but I do think her relationship with the rest of the cast is pretty interesting. So let's get started. Phoebe and Rachel.
You know what? If we were in prison, you guys would be like my bitches.
So like I said before, Phoebe and Rachel shared a kiss. Nothing really romantic about it, and it was played for laughs. But I do like to think Phoebe enjoyed it more than she admitted. Phoebe and Joey.
How you doing?
Now let's get into the meaty stuff. Phoebe and Joey. Phoebe and Joey is another significant coupling in the show, which is interesting considering the fact that they never get together, despite the fact that many people really liked this coupling and was actually hoping it would happen. I honestly think that the only reason Phoebe and Joey never became a thing was because the writers didn't want to feed into a ship that was so obvious. Chandler and Monica was very surprising. No one expected that to become what it did, but Phoebe and Joey would be right on the nose. I also suspect that despite the countless pairs they achieved through coupling the cast, they didn't want the entire cast just end up being in long-term committed relationships with each other. But they definitely still had a lot of fun with this coupling. Joey at one point dated Ursula, Phoebe's evil twin sister, and Phoebe was really against the relationship and very protective of Joey. They've kissed a bunch of times. Joey proposed to Phoebe when he thought she was pregnant, just so she wouldn't have to raise kids alone. And Phoebe was all for it, so she has no problem with Joey and even marrying him. They have at multiple times said they would get married to each other as a last resort if they end up single.
If neither of you are married by the time you're 40, you're gonna marry Joey.
Yeah, we shook on it.
They care deeply about each other and have a really strong bond, which just makes watching the show so much more frustrating because why wouldn't they just let them be together? They constantly tease at the fact that they are not only physically attracted to each other, but really love each other. This could have easily been a fleshed out relationship instead of that Joey-Rachel mess. But they never end up together, and Phoebe ends up marrying Mike, which honestly I like their relationship, so I'm not mad at it, and Joey even performed the ceremony for them. So it all worked out, I guess. It still would have been nice to see them together though. Phoebe and Ross.
Is Daddy getting angry? Is Daddy gonna spank me?
Now Phoebe and Ross have a pretty funny relationship. Phoebe always roots for Ross and Rachel to get together and pushes Ross outside of his comfort zone constantly. Ross can be a bit harsh with her at times, but I love how Phoebe constantly challenges his beliefs. In the What If episode about what friend almost had sex with who, Ross just finds out that his wife Carol have been having an affair with a woman, and in the moment of vulnerability, Phoebe and Ross almost have sex, but it doesn't end up happening. But I think it's funny Phoebe and Ross almost had sex. Imagine how crazy that would have been. They haven't really shown any other romantic or sexual interest in each other since though. Phoebe and Chandler.
You're going.
Not without you, lover.
Again, Phoebe kissed Chandler twice when he was kissing anything, walking and breathing to hide his relationship with Monica, and again when he had to pretend to be interested in Phoebe to keep people from finding out about him and Monica. Now let's look at Monica. Monica, I think, has the best track record of not wanting to fuck her friends. Well, except Chandler, of course. But I think Monica, out of everyone else, really doesn't cross those boundaries. But honestly, it's easier for Monica because, one, she's straight, so that rules out Rachel and Phoebe. Ross is her brother. So really, her only options would have been Chandler and Joey. And she actually wanted it to be Joey. Like, she went into that room looking to have sex with Joey first. So she only ended up with Chandler by chance. So maybe the real reason is she just has had less options and not necessarily so much that she respects her platonic relationships. Monica and Chandler. So obviously Monica married Chandler. They were secretly having sex for a while. Eventually they got together and got married. I've already talked about this relationship, but I just want to reiterate that to me this is the superior relationship. I think this is the healthiest relationship we've seen in the show. Monica and Rachel.
Did you go with her to Bloomingdale's?
Monica kissed Rachel in the episode with the apartment. Again, it was strictly paid for laughs, but we never even see the kiss on screen. But apparently it was really good. Monica and Joey.
Hi again.
Hey.
So remember when I said Monica doesn't try to fuck her friends except for Chandler? Well, I still think that's true because in the What If episode, Monica meets Joey for the first time and they're instantly attracted to each other. They aren't friends at this point and are basically strangers. I think Monica was open to dating him, but Joey just had to make it weird. Monica invites Joey in for lemonade and he takes it as a signal for sex. They eventually laugh off the misunderstanding and eventually become really good friends. And Joey again performs a ceremony for Chandler and Monica's wedding, which I think is really fitting considering their relationship with Joey. Monica and Ross. Okay, so this is a crazy one. Remember at the beginning of the video, I said that the Friends cast is really unique in the fact that they have an equal amount of women and men in the cast, and so could potentially pair up anyone in the cast to have that so in conflict relationships would lend themselves to. You could string out a fling between two friends over a 10-episode arc, or in the case of Ross and Rachel, 10 whole seasons. But the one downside to the Friends cast is that Ross and Monica are related. They're brother and sister, so that removes the potential of them pairing up together. Except that it doesn't, because the writers still had no issue pairing Ross and Monica together, despite the fact that they're related. In one episode, the friends are recounting an event in their past. Ross finds out that Chandler kissed Rachel when they were in college, on the very night that Ross shared his first kiss with Rachel. So yep, add that to the list. Chandler kissed Rachel in college. Ross is having a hard time grappling with the fact that Chandler also kissed Rachel the same night he kissed Rachel for the first time. Only he didn't, because we find out that Ross in fact did not kiss Rachel that night for the first time. Believing Rachel was passed out on his bed, Ross leads in for a kiss, except it wasn't Rachel but his sister, Monica.
You were under the pile of coats?
I was the pile of coats!
Monica was Ross's first kiss with Rachel, and Ross was Monica's first kiss ever. So yeah, in the Friends show, not even blood can keep you from potentially being shipped. I at least appreciate that the writers played it for laughs. It was an accident, there's no real attraction there, but I guess that's the best we could hope for a potential incestuous pairing. So yeah. So Joey, similarly to Rachel, has a reputation for being promiscuous, but that gets turned up to a whole other degree. Joey never ends up with anyone by the end of the show, but he does try to get with his friends at various points throughout the show. Joey and Rachel. Joey first started having feelings for Rachel when they went on a date as friends. Rachel was feeling down about being pregnant and feeling like she wouldn't be able to date anymore. He tried to suppress his feelings. Eventually Rachel started to have those feelings for Joey too. They tried dating, but just couldn't get it to work. Probably because everybody hated this shit. Joey and Chandler. Again, the running joke in the sitcom is how Chandler and Joey's friendship occasionally resembles the relationship of a loving couple. Chandler and Joey are best friends and have shared an apartment for most of the show. They share a kiss, but generally they're just really good friends. Joey and Phoebe. Joey and Phoebe was a relationship we could have had. Again, they've kissed, they've expressed mutual sexual and romantic interest in each other, but it just never worked out. Joey and Ross. So Joey and Ross also shared a kiss at one point in the show. In one episode, Joey's auditioning for a role wherein he has to kiss a guy. He does poorly at the audition and thinks it's because he might have tensed up kissing a guy for the first time, and so decides to practice. However, Ross and Chandler both declined to help him. Eventually, Ross kisses Joey to help him get the role, but at that point the audition had passed and he didn't get it. There was also that one episode where Ross and Joey repeatedly cuddled together during naps. They say that cuddling together is the best naps that they've ever had, and continued doing it in secret until the rest of the friends find out. But yeah, that's the extent of their sexual contact. They've kissed and enjoy cuddling. Joey and Monica. Joey was attracted to Monica when he first met her and tried to have sex with her right away, which really creeped her out. Eventually they became friends though, but in one episode, Joey has a dream about being with Monica. He thinks it's because he's in love with her, but actually it was him longing to have the kind of relationship Monica and Chandler have. So at this point, we've exhausted all of the pairings, so there's not really much to say when it comes to Ross. Ross is kind of an unpopular character in the Friends cast because of his attitude and general Rossness. So let's just get to it. Ross had his relationship with Rachel. They dated, they got married, they got divorced, and they even had a kid. Ross and Phoebe almost had sex that one episode. Ross kissed Joey at one point and they enjoyed cuddling together. And then with Ross and Monica, this happened.
You are my midnight mystery kisser!
So yeah, that's Ross. So that's it. That's all of the pairings I could remember in Friends. I do think it's interesting that Rachel and Joey has had some kind of romantic or sexual contact with everyone else in the cast. Every other friend is only missing one other person though. I like the idea of a group of 6 attractive friends constantly falling in and out of love with each other for 10 years. Because, let's be honest, that's essentially what Friends is. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for supporting me. There's gonna be some more interesting videos down the road. Remember to follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you guys next time.